We're calling this the nitty-gritty of the Middle East. And what I'd like to do is, for all of you that have had children that have played t-ball, you know what it's like to go up and put that little ball up on the tee and say, swing away. That's what I want to do here, is to allow them to just sort of swing away and share whatever thoughts they might have, as well as respond to one another as well. So, just by way of introduction, one of the current generals in Israel, I love his quote. He says, one good thing about being surrounded by your enemies is that you can shoot in any direction and hit your target. And so today, when we're looking at the Middle East, of course, we look at Lebanon and Hezbollah. We look at Syria. We look at Jordan, Egypt, the Sinai, Hamas. I guess they could shoot into the Med and not hit anyone, but think about it. And so our first question to the panel, we'll start with Chuck, and we'll just sort of go down the line, is that in light of what we see in the Middle East today, what domino do you think will fall first, and then describe what's next?
Well, I'm not qualified. I'll defer to my source of news in a moment. But in terms of this aiming in any direction remark you made, my first shot would be at the White House. I regard the sitting president as subjecting all of us to reckless endangerment, and that's just putting it mildly. I could go on, but I think you get the flavor of this. As far as nitty-gritty, the only place I get my news is right at my right hand here.
What was the question again? We actually report the news after it happens at WND, not before. So I'm a little uncomfortable making predictions about the next domino. But listen, I mean, just from a practical standpoint, we've seen Egypt, and we've seen what's going on in Syria, and of course Lebanon has been all but taken over by Hezbollah, which is just an extension of Iran. Well, if you look around, I'd be very nervous if I was the king of Jordan. And I know for a fact that the Saudis are very, very concerned about Iran. And I think that this Saudi-Iran conflict is probably the most significant thing for us to be looking at when we look at the Middle East right now. The schism between Shia and Sunni Islam is much deeper than I think most Americans understand. Just to put it in perspective, the world is fascinated by this conflict between Israelis and Palestinians, and somehow this is causing unrest for the whole world. But yet, if you just go back a few years and you look at the war between Iraq and Iran, over 1 million people were killed in that war. When has there been a war between Palestinians and Israelis, or Israelis and anybody, where there were 1 million deaths? It's crazy. And this is, at the heart of it, is this conflict between Sunni and Shia Islam. And something I think very significant has happened recently with respect to U.S. policy toward the Middle East. Our policy in the Middle East, honestly, was pretty predictable for a long time, all through the 1990s to right up until the last year. And that is that our foreign policy, and particularly our policy toward the Middle East, was we did whatever the Saudis wanted us to do. We have essentially been a mercenary army for the Saudis. That's what the first Gulf War was about. That's what the second Gulf War was about. That was what our almost attack of Syria was.